Hello and welcome to
Absolute Game Off.
Nerd! You have your non-geek, non-nerd hosts, JP and Rohan, and we have a member of the Illuminati with us tonight. We have Ryan from Collecting Casually. And
Hey,
Rohan, give this man a proper introduction, please.
Yeah, I can't remember if we've explained on this channel, first off, what the Illuminati is. So there's like a group of us that have an Instagram text thread, basically, and all of us have channels. There's like Ryan, Colossus Collector, Lunch Money Comics Mike, and Big B McFly. And there's like, was there 8 of us in there or 11
it's
of us
growing,
in there? Yeah, it's growing. And so I met Ryan first off when we watched a collectible sale on Colossus Collector's stream. He's in the Illuminati. We've become friends since and been getting to know him here. So Ryan, say hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. And I mentioned Ryan has, before I got back into collecting, he's wearing the X-Men 1 sweatshirt that I saw before I got back in. And had I seen it post getting back in, I would have 100% bought that. And I really wish I had bought it back then because it's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago I picked it up and
yeah.
I think I have 2 of them actually because I was like, I'm gonna ruin one of these. Let's just get 2 of them.
Well, if you have a size small, send it my way.
No.
Yeah, I figured you wear it as small as me. Anyways, we always like to start as usual with the origin story, and we're going to take it way back. Yeah, exactly. Wolverine size, exactly. I'm just as jacked as Wolverine. I like to think it. But yeah, Ryan, tell us about when it all started. So even if there was a break, take us to the way back beginning.
Yeah, so I didn't start collecting, as a young kid. Well, I say young kid. My really comic interest started in middle school, and so I was born and raised in a small town outside of Wichita, Kansas. Born in the '80s, and moved to a suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Early 1992, and I was that kid in a totally different state and area with the southern accent compared to the northern accent, and just trying to make friends, things like that. And a kid I kind of had befriended, and we're out at the playground one day, and he slaps down what I didn't have any interest in or idea what they were, but they were Series 2 Marvel Universe trading cards, right? And we're
yeah, baby, that the Series 2 is the best one too.
So like that cosmic background, right? And so he's like showing them to me, and of course we're kids, who knows what he had paid for the packs or if his parents bought them. So we're just like old Magic cards, right? Sliding these things around on the concrete sidewalk, just looking at them. They're getting beat up, and over the time and our friendship, he gave some to me, right? So now that's where it gets started, and I take a look at these, and there used to be a shop up there. Yeah.
Real quick, do you know what characters that he threw down? Do you remember at all?
Man, some of the early, I know I have some of my those cards from back when I moved up there, so 92, 93 time period. I don't remember exactly which ones he sat down, but I do know the ones that I still have because I didn't have a whole set or a base set of that collection. So I had a Spider-Man and Venom and just some of the big hitters, right, that are those big names. And you see all these other characters in there, and I'm like, I have no idea who this is. Of course, as a kid, I knew who Spider-Man was, and I knew who Batman and Superman, right? But I'd never seen trading cards or anything like that. And like you said, 92, that one always holds a good spot in my heart, of those sets, and just the power bars on the back and all the cool information. And that's how I kind of got into comics, but never really bought comic books themselves. It was always cards that I was interested in. So I kind of collected cards for a while. I know I mentioned Magic here a second ago. I got big into Magic the Gathering, and so that kind of took me away from cards. And so I always just collected cards on the side, but in that move up there in Minnesota, we moved around a couple times, and my new group of friends, they weren't into comics or any of that. So it was I'm this lone wolf out here with this side interest that nobody else had. So kind of you put it on the back burner and whatever, right? I've got a stack of these cards off to the side. You might get a pack every now and then at the gas station, or for Christmas, you might get a couple packs from your parents, but that was all it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd always go in, and we had this shop up there called Schinders. It was a small chain, and that's where I got my cards, but they were also a really big comic shop. And that's where I would see all these comics on the walls, and you're like, oh, hey, I've seen that character on these cards. Now I see them up on the wall here, but they were books that I wish we could have those prices nowadays, but at the time they were still too much for me to get off of like the money I was getting from maybe mowing my yard or something like that. So I never bought any additional books. It was always just cards. So fast forward to like high school, started in 96, graduated in 2000. And every now and then, like I would buy some Spawn for some reason. I don't know why I was interested in Spawn. It wasn't the like beginnings of the Spawn run or anything. I think I started in like issue number 60 or something. I just thought he looked cool, right? It was, JP, you're like, what? Like
when it was like, it had nothing to do with McFarlane. So you just liked it was probably great.
Yeah, like I had no idea who Todd McFarlane was at the time. I was like, oh, this guy looks cool. So I like started grabbing a couple. Did
you like watch the movie maybe at all?
After I think
okay, so that wasn't what got you into that.
Nope, it wasn't. So it was just like a really odd side thing. Again, like I'd be we had a place called Hastings, right, where you'd go to rent your movies, and they also sold baseball cards and comic cards and magic cards, and hey, we've got some comics over here on the rack. And so it'd be like just one of those spots you'd stop in the shop on a Friday night trying to find a movie with your girlfriend, and you're like, all right, we figured out the movie, let's go figure out what else they have here, pick up a couple books here and there. And then again, just kind of dropped off until probably 10 to 12 years ago. I started getting back into buying all of like the toys that I used to have in the 80s and 90s. And of course that included some of the Marvel stuff, but Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, things like that. And it morphed into like Marvel stuff, because I had the Toy Biz toys back in the day. But yeah, it just kind of morphed, and then had kids, and some of those hobbies just kind of had to be put on the back burner. And so stuff gets put into storage boxes and gets put away in the corner. And then pandemic time, 2019, 2020 rolls around, and you're just like, let's just get back into this. And that's kind of where I've been in the last couple of years, is just adding and like actually focusing on comics as opposed to cards, because back, like I said, 10 to 12 years ago, I made a couple YouTube videos on my personal channel, like, hey, let's look at these early series of Marvel cards, right? And they were horrible quality videos, but I had fun making them and, looking at all of them and reminiscing about everything. And I started following a couple Discord groups in 2019 or so, talking about cards and like, hey, these are starting to become more expensive. Maybe you should buy boxes and look at it. And then somebody in the chat was mentioning, well, graded comics are like really where the numbers are. And it got me thinking, oh, they grade comics too. And so that's really where, I don't know, I just started thinking more and more about comics, and it's just kind of grown from there. And I've always had the desire to like get a good deal on things. So that's kind of my piece, is like I was telling you before the show started, I'm what I call a serial hobbyist. So I get into a lot of genres of things, right? Comics, the magic cards, computer games and computers and building computers and remote control cars. And just like, I get into a lot of things. So right now, like comics is my main one. And I see it sticking around for a long time because it's always been part of my life since that like middle school time, right?
Yeah.
And it's always been a staple for me, I guess, in my life.
So real quick, so you essentially, the boredom of the pandemic is got you to kind of open back up those old boxes. So had that not happened, you may not be here today then.
Yeah, I mean, I had this room, and I was telling you, I had a room in my previous house in the basement where I was decorating, and it was always decorated kind of with like those, I had been buying up a Castle Grayskull here and there to put on the shelf, and like, so that didn't include, hey, look, there's a good deal on this like carded Wolverine Toy Biz figure. So let's get some of those, right? So it was like I was always picking up things here and there, and they end up like on the shelves back here, right? I've got carded Ninja Turtles, and there's a whole one full of X-Men and some G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe. And it was always just like pop culture, toy, comic collecting, just like a constant influx, right?
Where are you picking up all this stuff?
At that time, it'd be, local flea markets, sometimes antique shops here and there. I dabbled in eBay buying. It was just wherever I could find it. And I was thinking about this, getting ready to be on the show, and remembered that and I don't know why I'd forgotten this, but my grandfather actually had an antique shop when I was growing up as a kid. And it made me think it's just part of like my genetics and family, like build, I guess, to like be, I don't know, a collector of things. And it always makes you also think like, did he have comics in that antique shop? I don't remember, man. And like, if I would have been more into them, and who knows what was there.
But you're always looking for so you're not like buying these things like brand new off the rack. Like you're looking for deals and steals. Correct?
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still buying new books on Wednesdays at the comic shop every now and then. But I'm that casual collector, and that's where my channel name comes from, right? Collecting casually. Like I'm not going to be the guy you go to ask that trivia question, or you don't want me necessarily on your trivia team. I might know the answer, but I might not be the first one with it, right? So I'm that casual guy that a lot of times is maybe the cover collector, or just like collecting because I like to collect, and that's in my personality, right? Yeah,
I think it's funny, especially like in this Illuminati thread, sometimes like when people talk about like Travis from Cosplay, he's like, oh, I'm reading this and reading that, and like sometimes I'm just like, and I know JP's kind of in the same boat with this. It's like, I'm not reading comics now. I'm just solely collecting. Like, I'm interested in the stuff I grew up on, and so I totally, and I think we're all adults here. We can all be honest.
There we are.
Oh yeah, there we are. There's the Illuminati for people wondering what we are. And Ryan is Black Bolt there, so he's the only one with the mask on. For those with reference. No, but I think that's totally fair. Like we all are in this because it's something that we loved. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to continue understanding what's going on. Even though I do like learning and hearing about like the storylines going on. But like, do I have a desire to like pick up the new runs? Like, honestly, I don't. Like, I just enjoy collecting and reminiscing about the stories I grew up on and things like that.
Well, and it was a mindset that I just kind of shifted to, because back when probably 15 years ago, I got back into Magic the Gathering pretty heavily and playing a lot. And like, I was looking to buy collections from people to, up my collection and build decks, things like that. And I found a guy on Craigslist who was selling his collection. And, I was the first one to get to it, and he only wanted $30 for it. And I was just like looking through it, going through it, and like seeing, if it was something I wanted to buy, things like that. And I was just chatting with him. I was like, so, when did you play, or what was your favorite deck to play, things like that. And he's like, oh, I didn't play. I just collected them for the art because I like the art. And at the time, that was such a foreign thought to me to be like, but there's a whole game. Like, you could be playing with these things. Like, why are you only collecting them for the art? And now here I am. I'm like, yeah, I'm collecting these, and I'm not reading every one of them by any means.
Yeah.
And so it's a shift. I'm like, oh, his viewpoint now makes sense to me, where there's a whole like world and stories, and I could go so much deeper with my collection, but that's just not my enjoyment out of them, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah, totally. Can we, JP, do you know much about Magic the Gathering?
I do not know.
Okay, because I have a question. So since you talked about Marvel cards, and we've talked about Marvel cards a lot on this show, like Marvel cards, right? There's sets that come out, the various years, and there's this set, and X-Men set, and all these sets. Does Magic the Gathering have? I have no idea. Does Magic the Gathering have sets, or is it just like the set is ever expanding?
So it's always expanding, right? But they're always releasing sets, and they've actually gotten more and more frequent in the last 5 to 10 years. And that's one of the actually big complaints from some of the community is like, you're just releasing too much and we can't afford this, and like we have to pick and choose, and there's like premium products. It's very similar to comics, where it's like, what do you mean there's 10 variants, and now some of them are like, this isn't just a virgin variant, but it's a foil cover, or it's the exact or very similar, right? And it's ever expanding. They're always releasing new cards.
Okay.
Did they not just come out with the Lord of the Rings or something, Magic the Gathering or Hobbit?
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And they had the one version that was like the one ring, right?
Did you hear about this, JP?
Yeah, what the guy I worked with was talking. He was trying to get back into it.
But did you hear about the one of one?
Yeah, the ring, right?
Yeah, so there's a one of one card, and it's like the one ring to rule, and the bounty got up to $3 million, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't remember what the end price was, but Post Malone ended up with the card.
Okay, I think he was the one that put the bounty on it, and I know
there were multiple.
You can get your cards obviously graded by various services, and I think Beckett came out, which is BGS, and said that they were hoping to be the one that got to grade it, and then when it popped out on the seed, it was already graded by PSA, which was a big win for them. Just kind of a crazy story.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah, it was wild.
So talk to us then in terms of comics and even cards. Like, what do you collect? Like, what characters, storylines, teams? What is it that you collect?
Yeah, so I've always been a big fan of what I consider. I don't know. My favorites are X-Men and Spider-Man. Like those are my biggest. What I'm considering run collections that I'm going for, right? But I'm a fan of so many other characters. Just like I'm one of those people that likes Darkhawk as a character, right?
You and Swagglehoss.
Yeah. So, but yeah, X-Men and Spider-Man. So like I'm working on my Amazing Spider-Man run. I'd like to have like everything from. I say one. Yeah, I'd love to have a full run.
There's a 9.8 coming up on Heritage.
I saw. Maybe I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, maybe if you.
So no, yeah, I'd love to have a full run of ASM up through like I don't know mid 300s or so with that, right? Same with X-Men.
I feel like on that, like I feel like the 360s is a good stopping.
That's about where I want to stop.
Yeah, because you get Carnage.
I was just looking 361,
361, but then there's like those cool ones, a couple that are after. But like after Carnage, like any like big first appearance, like I don't really care. Like there's like the Red Goblin or something like I don't need that. Like 361 is like that's a good stop.
Maybe 375 because it's got a cool cover,
Yeah, exactly.
Foil cover. But I'm just like, I don't really care about even these high 300s to be honest. Same thing with X-Men, right? Like once we get up in the high 200s, I'm done. So I'm just kind of working through those, but I'm not entirely focused on them, and that's been like my issue when I got back into comics. It was just like I was picking stuff up left and right. If I thought it looked cool or I thought I might want it, I was buying it, and that's everything from buying dollar books at the comic shops, finding deals at flea markets, just adding books because it was more of a mindset of quantity over quality at that time.
How close are complete are these runs? Just curious.
Not super complete. I mean, like my 100s. I'm looking down here at my book, like my little handy written book, right? So I've got my
black book, different for nerds than it is for regular people.
That light's just gonna kill me. Let me see if let's do this. All right, so there's like my 200s and 300s, right?
Yeah.
So like everything with a square over it, I've got. But if you go like to the 1 through 200, it's not quite as impressive. Right, there's no 129 there, but there's a 101, right? First Morbius is in there.
There you go. I actually that's what I'm looking to find, like a steal. I feel like I'm gonna find one for $80, $100, and I'm gonna jump on.
Right, and so it's similar like with X-Men, right? There's my 1 through 200 on X-Men, and then my 200s and 300s, right? So it's getting there, but it's not complete by any means.
Yeah, I think when it comes to X-Men, I think a good. Like you're saying, a good stop point, like 244 is First Jubilee, and it's like that's like the last major character that was like
like Bishop comes in.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. I take that back. Bishop would be it. So I would
Bishop
say
and Gambit's
260. Yeah, I'm off on the number. Yep. 266. So yeah, I would go 282, which is
you might as well just finish at 300.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just go the whole get like 300.
Just stop.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot about Gambit and Bishop, but what I'm getting at.
75 for Spider-Man, 300 for X-Men, and that's probably a good number to stop at.
Yeah. And, but like, over the last year or so, I've kind of shifted to like.
What is that?
The little mini books.
Some mini books there.
Oh, that's 39.
Mini Spider-Man books.
Or it's kind of like 39. Are those foreign?
And this is Marvel Superhero.
They're in English.
I think number. Yeah, they're just little special collector item issues that I found at the auction recently. This one here, this is the only time this guy's ever appeared in a Spider-Man book, and this was in Spider-Man: The Marvel Superheroes number 21 or 18, whatever it is.
What people don't realize there is JP is actually a giant. Those are full-size comic books. Just they look so mini in his hands.
I'm just huge.
Let me get out of Treasury, and I'll look really small next to it, right? Yeah.
This is my iPad. This is my iPad, just so you know.
That's good.
Ryan, just knowing you from the Illuminati chat, we know you're a huge Dave Stevens fan. Talking about this, where does it come from? And I recently found out JP's a huge JP. I honestly, before I I just couldn't even tell you who Dave Stevens was until we started talking about it recently.
Yeah, I think my introduction to him was via the Bronze and Modern Gods podcast. I don't know if you listen to them or watch them. Right?
I know JP does. I've listened to a few episodes, but JP.
So John and Richard. Well, and I know. I think JP even met them at a show, right?
I stopped listening to them because they ghosted us.
Yeah, they did ghost us. They were supposed to come on, and then they didn't answer.
They did. They were going to be on the show. I drove to Ohio to meet them both. That's other things I had to do, but I stopped at the show and met them both and said, "Hey, you guys want to come on?" And they said, "Yeah," and then they kind of ghosted us twice. So I haven't listened to the show in a while.
That stinks.
That's right.
Well, anyhow, I know Richard is a fan, and he had shown. I'm not sure what book it was that he showed. And I was like, "Wow, that's really nice." And then, he had mentioned the name, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. And then there was a local auction house online, and that's all these auctions a lot of them are moving to these online local auction houses, at least in our area, right? There used to be a lot more in person during the week. You'd go and it's just like an older crowd of people, and they're all standing around bidding. Traditional like in-person auction. So a lot of the places have gone online in the last couple of years, which it has its pluses and minuses. But anyhow, one of the local ones had a 3D Seduction of the Innocent by Dave Stevens cover, and it's a famous one. And I actually pulled it to the side because I thought we might talk about books and stuff. And so it was this copy right here, right? 3-dimensional Seduction of the Innocent.
You see, and I saw this at the bottom there.
Yeah, the guy's head right here in the pile of comics. Right?
Oh, look at that.
His face, his tongue.
You just got this recently, right?
Me?
Yeah.
So this copy I got at that auction online,
okay.
probably a year and a half ago. But yes, I did get another copy from a guy who goes by the name Cinema Chan on like Instagram and whatnot. So yes, I got a better copy of this. This is my original though. And I found this and I just fell in love with it. I was like, God, this is an amazing cover. I love it. Like I'm another guy that loves Halloween and things like that. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is a Dave Stevens cover. I love this. What else does he do? And then it's just been down the rabbit hole, hunting for those books at comic shows, looking everywhere I can. And they're like so easy for me to identify now. But you're always asking vendors like, hey, do you have any Dave Stevens, or do you have this, that, and the other? And the title, it's not like he's on the cover of X-Men or a Spider-Man or anything like that. There are all these obscure titles for the most part, outside of Rocketeer, right? Rocketeer is a big name that everybody probably knows. But yeah, I've just been scooping up his art wherever and whenever I can, when it makes sense and the price is right. So I've just been adding to that collection. Let me get this out of the way. But I got my Grail Dave Stevens book, and I don't know if you have a Grail, JP, or a certain book that you like the best of his, but like this isn't it. But here's like Johnny Quest. Man, I'm just killing it with this.
Yeah, there you go. We can see it.
So there's a Johnny Quest. Here's, like I mentioned, Rocketeer on the cover there, and I've mentioned just the emotion that he can show. Like, look at those eyes behind that mask. Like you're only seeing his eyes, but you can just see emotion so well in Dave's artwork. It's amazing. Here's a Vanguard Illustrated. I picked this up on our vacation this last summer. Just happened to find it in a box at a antique mall. So I was happy to grab that. The Space Vixens is close to my Grail, but it's not quite there.
That's a good one.
Zone. Yeah, this one's sweet. And then my Grail.
Is it Planet Comics?
Hang on. I got one more. I just got this last week. It showed up. So I got an Alien Worlds 4 number 6. Cool, huh? Yeah, so
I saw that one at an antique store last year in North Carolina, and that's when I looked up because the cover looked familiar to me, the way he drew the face. Yep. This is, I knew Dave Stevens, but I didn't know Dave Stevens, and I looked it up, and they said Dave Stevens art, and I was like, I should have picked it up. It was like $8.
But yeah, you're right, Rohan. Planet Comics #1 and 8.5.
Oh, 8.5, that's nice.
The guy I bought it from, and I agree, right? I got it on eBay. And we were chatting back and forth like, hey, are you looking for anything else? I can combine shipping, things like that. And we were just talking about it and looking at it. He thought that it was going to come back like possibly a 9.6, 9.8.
So you got it raw. You got it raw.
No, I bought it graded at an 8.5. He probably should have cracked it and resubmitted it because this book is so clean and in amazing shape. But I think he just didn't want to deal with the hassle. Mm-hmm. So I may crack it and resubmit it, because I think it's much higher than an 8.5. Just like looking at other graded books that I have, and like looking at my grading guide, and just from my perspective,
I'm curious, so much better. I don't know. I know of the book, but I don't know the values here. So what does like an 8.5 go for? What does a 9.6 go for?
I think I paid $180 for this at the time. Like a 9.6. I'm not sure what they're currently going for. I know. Oh, never mind. That was a different book that I was just.
If the 8.5 is going for 180, I mean, I would venture to say 9.6 is probably $800.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. I don't have access to GPA, so unfortunately,
yeah.
But that was my grail, and like I was happy to get it in a 8.5, because I had been looking, like, up at Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City. That's like the biggest show around here. Unfortunately, it's more of a pop culture type show, it feels like. So there's really
that's
not
all the shows around me are that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good dealers there, and a couple of them were like, "Oh no, I didn't bring it," or one was a local shop, and they're like, "Oh, it's on the wall at our shop," and I'm like, "Oh, so I can go and get it like now?" And they're like, "Well, no, we're closed because we're here at the show." And I'm like, "All right, fine." Like, so I've never been able to actually find it, and I would always rather find books in the wild if I can. Yeah, like one just went again an 8.5 for 180.
When did you buy that?
When did I buy it? A couple months ago.
While you guys are looking, let me ask you, Ryan.
Yeah,
so Dave Stevens is obviously
180 is the one I'm seeing. Okay, I don't know if that was yours.
No, I've had
180 for an 8.5, and then 9.2 at 210.
Okay.
Yep.
Ryan, I was gonna say Dave Stevens is obviously well known for drawing the female form. For sure. So do you have a specific taste in the kind of the good girl art?
I've kind of been drawn to some of that. Yeah. I try not to be like too over the top with it. I think his stuff is like, I don't know, fun enough, and not like, sure, these girls look good and like, and everything, but it's not like, I don't know, they don't feel so overtly sexualized in them. Like they're seductive, but not like, I don't know if I'm making sense with that. Like, yes, totally, the good girl, right? The good girl art, like the Alien Worlds cover, where she's like this space girl and she's got this bubble on her head and she's wearing a full blouse and everything, right? But she's still a cute girl.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. I like the good girl art. I'm a fan of Adam Hughes, right? Like I like his work. I like David Nakayama. Yeah, those are like my big artists right now. With that. Was that a Betty Page there?
That. No, it says Rocketeer print.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice, very nice.
That's the Rocketeer.
Yep.
Signed by Dave.
Oh, signed even.
226 of 850. I gotta get it better. Signed. I got this found online. The guy buys original art, and my wife doesn't like the picture or the she doesn't like the good girl art, but like you said, they're seductive, but then he can draw, it just depends on their perspective. So
right.
So when JP first showed me that, he was asking about it. I knew of the Rocketeer just because of the movie from when I was a kid, but I did not know who Dave Stevens was.
Yep.
And it was ever since that moment that now we discussed Dave Stevens, and obviously then we met you and talked about it. What I was getting at, though, in terms of the good girl, I was just curious if you had long-term ambitions to like get into that kind of golden age, good girl, those kind of classics.
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I have some, like, I know JP, and again, I was listening to Dan's show, or Dan's X-Men comics, right? While ahead of this today. And you had mentioned one that's, I don't know if I consider it good girl art, but it was a book that you had found. And I happen to have a copy, and this goes back to cards. So I'll like do a not transition, but just like it's related, because I found a card.
It's all related. This is all.
Then I was like, hey, I wonder if this card was made in reference to this cover here.
Oh yeah.
Right, the showcase with Dolphin, right?
You just got that too, JP, didn't you?
Yeah, found it in a while.
Yeah, that wasn't right. And this was there's also a Barbie fashion. I think it's Barbie fashion 13 and 12 or 13 that has a cover that's kind of like an homage to this Dolphin cover. And I thought it was cool.
Do you know?
Yep, I've got the multiple of the who's like what Dolphin, and there's like Catwoman, and I forget the other one, but you can pick those up and get them real cheap for some like nice Dave Stevens art inside of those as well.
Did he do Catwoman as well, or is that just did?
It's like Catwoman 2, I think. Yeah, there's 3 issues of that DC Who's Who that have Dave Stevens.
I had a whole stack at that antique store I was at today that I found the Black Cat. They had these, and I knew to look for this one. See, Rohan, you got Dave Stevens drawing Dolphin right there.
Oh, nice.
So that's what, but it's not on the cover. I didn't know he did the rest. I probably had it right in front of me, so I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah, there's two others. Yep, but the card I was flipping through because we talked about this on Colossus Collector's show the other day. We were talking about cards, and I was mentioning I had some signed Marvel Masterpieces signed by Joe Jusko, and
oh, look at that.
Right, so Namorita has very similar art to Dolphin. So I was I was curious. I was like, I wonder if he referenced that piece for this card. So I also grabbed, like I said, semi-transition, but it's all related. Maybe to make Colossus Collector jealous, here's that Colossus signed by Joe. And let's see here, what else? Did you just mention Black Cat, JP? Did you mention something about Black Cat?
Yeah, I just found the Black Cat behind me at that antique.
Oh, that. Jusko to go with the 80.
I love that
94. Nice. Oh yeah, it's awesome.
I love that book. Yeah,
nice. Love it. And then I know Rohan, you are a Silver Surfer fan, so
oh yeah, baby, what we got?
Don't drool too much. I got that one signed by Joe, and also the Galactus.
Nice.
Was in there as well, and it can go with. This is like my most exciting book pickup recently. Unfortunately, it's missing the centerfold.
Yeah.
But I picked this up at a local antique shop that I'm actually selling some bulk comics in, to try and like not just make some money back on the hobby and help it pay for itself, but clear some books out of this room and like I'll store these here at the booth, right?
That's something I wanted to get at. Because I've talked to you about you have bought storage lockers.
Yeah. Just one, thankfully.
Oh, just one. Just go through that kind of process, like what you're thinking. Like I watched your video on that, and then is that what you're using at the antique store to sell, or
right? Yep. So I've always, like we talked about, I've always been looking for deals on things to pick up, right? I don't want to spend a ton of money on things. Like I don't have to have the best condition of things, just as long as I've got it. It's that what I feel like is just in my blood, like and runs not runs in the family, but I feel like it's just like part of me where I want to collect things. I collect things, right? That's what I do as a hobby. So I'm always trying to find things. And before I get to the storage unit, like one thing that really kicked off, like wow, you can find these awesome books in crazy places, is one day I was like, I wonder if like a pawn shop has any comic books, right? There's no reason that they wouldn't necessarily. They sell all sorts of stuff, right? Why wouldn't they maybe have comics? Ended up at one of them in town, and they had like probably a dozen long boxes. And I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. But there were a lot of like just beat up 80s titles, like a ton of Avengers West Coast, but they were selling them for like 10 for $1, or maybe they weren't that cheap. They were probably $1. Maybe they were $1 each, but if you bought 10 of them, they'd give them to you for like $8, right? So you're like, okay, $1 books, and a lot of them were just beat up, and that's where I bought a bulk of my comics at the beginning of collecting. But one that I did find in there, unbagged, raw, for $1, was my ASM 300. So like it goes back to that saying, and I'm always a proponent of
what kind of condition are we in here? What kind of condition are we in there?
It's dirty. I really need to clean it, and I bought some supplies for cleaning, but oh my gosh, this glare is gonna be the death of me. But like up here in the Spider-Man section, there's some dirt, but the corners are really nice. The spine has one large tick, so
I would happily pay $1 for that copy.
All day. I would 8.5 maybe after a clean.
8.5. That's incredible for $1.
Yeah. And the fact that it was raw in there and like how it survived and looks this good, I don't know. But yeah, I think it'll come back around 885 probably for that. But so I've always like, okay, if I can find these there, where else can I find things? And, we've all seen the show Storage Wars and, hear tales of that. So I was like, all right, let me just start looking at online storage unit auctions. And I mean, I looked for months and months, and I would you go to these online auction pages and you look at the pictures and you like kind of look around and you scroll through them and you're looking at like hundreds of pages every week because these auctions are always coming up. And I keep them local at least because I'm not going to travel far to go dig through an auction and then figure out what to do with all the junk.
How many pictures do you get per locker?
It depends. It can be anywhere from like 2 or 3 pictures all the way to a dozen. Thankfully, the unit that I bid on and won, there's probably a dozen pictures. And in one of them, like you would have to know what a long or short box looks like from the end of it to even tell that there were possibly comics in there. And I kind of go over this. This is my most popular video on my channel. But I go over this a bit and I was like, in the back, up on the top of a shelf, and this was a 10 by 25 unit. So think at least 20 feet back on essentially a potato phone, right? These aren't the highest quality images, but you could zoom in and like in the handle of one of what turned out to be a long box at the top of a shelf, I could see the letters BAT. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's like a 90s Batman cover on there. And so that made me feel confident enough to bid on it, thinking that there would be comic books in there because there were multiple boxes on the shelf. And so, it could have been all junk, but there were other things. Yeah, there were other things you could see in there. There were some tools. There was what looked like and ended up being some ceramics molds. There was an air compressor in there. But again, you're not in front of the locker. You're only getting to see from the viewpoint of whoever was taking pictures, right? And they're just there to take pictures and move on to the next one and do their job. So you're not able to like stick your head in, crane around, really get a good look. So yeah, I came down to it. I ended up winning the locker. Got there, ended up with I think 6 long boxes and a couple short boxes of comics, but ended up with the New Mutants 98 out of there, which is right here.
Nice. So that was I remember in your video that was like the big score.
Yeah,
right?
This was the biggest hit, right? In it, there was a Infinity Gauntlet in there, and that was a book that I hadn't added to my collection yet, so I was really excited about it. But then there was just a ton of other 90s books around that time frame. A lot of Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, a lot of DC books. I'm not a DC collector necessarily. There's a few books that I have in my collection. But yeah, so a lot of that ended up being put, in the antique mall in my booth there. Some of it's still sitting in the room because I haven't figured out, do I want to keep this or not?
Real quick, this 10 by 25, that's huge.
It is enormous.
When you win
this fit 2 cars in there. That's 2 cars.
Yeah, when you win that bid and you go to this site, are they like you have a month with the locker, or is it like
I wish I had a month,
or you got
72 hours.
72. So you got to get like a trailer then.
So this leads into like this whole situation burgeons into like a friendship and leads to the antique mall. So I win this and I paid more than I had wanted to, but again, it was like that. I'm in it. Let's just keep going, So yeah, I get there. The guy cuts the lock or, takes his lock off, opens it up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. There is a lot of stuff here. I've got 72 hours. It happened to be like, I bought it on a Monday and that was a holiday. So I was already off of work that day. So I was like, all right, this is a free day. I ended up taking the next day off of work. I called my boss and was like, hey, like, can I get tomorrow off? Because I got a lot of work here to get this thing cleaned out. I got 72 hours. So it was a lot of work. Thankfully, another guy that had won an auction at the same, facility came around because he had been bidding on the same unit. And he was there and was like, oh, hey, I'm so-and-so. And he's a guy a little younger than me. But he just also happens to own a dumpster rental company. And so he had already had a dumpster dropped off just around a couple aisles over and was like, hey, if you want to throw your trash in there, go for it. Right. Like, no big deal. So I was so in the mindset of getting these comics in this unit that I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this trash. I mean, we have a utility trailer, but it would have taken me so many trips to the dump and like so many miles and so many fees to dump stuff. And so, you know, that turned into a good friendship over the last year or so. And he's actually the one that opened up this local antique mall a couple months ago, and how I've got the connection to have a booth in there. But yeah, it was a lot of work. Like, I tried to sell as much of the stuff that I could that I didn't want. There was tools. There was a kiln for firing ceramics. There were ceramics molds, fishing rods, all sorts of just some junk, right? There was boxes. There was 1 or 2 long boxes full of encyclopedias that were old, and I was like, damn, if those would have been more comics, right?
Yeah.
But no, they were just old encyclopedias. So
how are you manning this antique store? You have a job though.
Yeah, so it's a lot of the malls around here are they're what I call an antique mall. So there's booths inside. So there's staff that works the mall full time, and you have like a 10x10 or a 5x5 booth. You have a tag that has your dealer number and stamp on it and your pricing. So when somebody finds something, they take it up to the front. They know who to credit that towards, and you either, you know, they either get a percentage of your sale, or, you know, you're just paying for that booth space. That depends cool. on the mall. So yeah, I don't have to stock it or anything or work there.
My biggest complaint about the antique malls is when I would buy with somebody who has a bunch of comics, I would take it to the front counter. There's one middle of the state of PA near State College, near Penn State. And they got to be the couple's got to be 95 years old, each of them. Ridiculous. And I found an Omega Man number 3 in pretty good shape for $2. And I take it up to the counter. I got a whole stack of books, and I know I got like $500 for the books there, and I'm paying like $20 for them all. And they're pulling off these stickers and grabbing, and I'm like, could you please let me do it? Could you please let me? And they're like, why did I come in here and buy stuff if I wanted you to ruin it? Right? Like, we're buying stuff, like, keep it nice. Don't handle it like it's a damn piece of paper.
Yeah,
and I'm like, just give it to me. I'll take them off. I go, why do you need this anyway? You're typing the same sticker, and you're putting the sticker on a piece of paper, then you're typing it in the computer. What do you need the sticker for? Type it in the computer.
Yep, exactly.
This is our way of inventorying it. I'm like, I don't understand. Put the guy's number in the computer, and then you print out a receipt, and he gets credit. I don't know why you need to pick a sticker, put it on here. It's ridiculous.
Yep, because they hand those tags back. It is infuriating watching them.
You don't know why I'm laughing so hard. Is because JP always gets into these confrontations with these people.
I fight everybody.
Bullying these 95-year-old couple.
Yeah,
no, but
I 80 and up, I can take them. 80 and up, I can take them.
I totally agree, though. Like when you've got like a comic that's bagged and boarded, or maybe just bagged usually, right? They're never boarded, and they're in these old polyethylene bags even, and they're just scratching away at the tape to get their sticker off of there, and you're like, I'm watching you dent the cover of this book. Please stop. Right?
What do you need to take the sticker off? Just write it down. And some of them I've gotten nicer, Rohan, over time. But I was like, I wanted that Omega Man. I was like, why are you doing that? Like, I was so pissed.
Yeah. Well, it always cracks me up. Like, you find them, like the sellers think that they're being protective, and it's wrapped in saran wrap, right? If you've ever seen those, or they're in the like freezer size Ziploc bags, and I'm like, this is like $1 Ziploc bag. Like, just don't even worry about it.
I know. I've seen
all those crazy.
They take some type of, it's either a Ziploc bag or some type of oversized, comic, bag.
Yep.
And they basically use packing tape, pack it around like it's a goddamn Fort Knox. And then I want to see the inside of it to see if it's full, complete, whatever. And I can't even open the damn thing because they don't want you to open it. They want you just to buy it, right? Because they want to make sure their inventory is safe, right? So you don't take it out of the package and switch stickers, prices. And so I get that point of it, but I'm like, I can't even look on the inside of it. You packed it like it's Fort Knox. It's a goddamn $5 comic book,
Yep.
So
the struggle is real. So yeah, that's like my story of the storage locker. I haven't bought another one since. That doesn't mean that I'm not looking. I'm always looking at like the online storage auctions, all the estate sales, sites, so I can look at pictures. And I'm always just hunting, and I'll put in the word like comic or comic book into the search, and sometimes you'll get hits here and there, but that doesn't mean that like those are the only sales that have comics. You have to look at all the pictures, because sometimes it's just like, oh, there's comics sitting on a table in this picture, but comic and Marvel or DC, Spider-Man, Superman isn't listed in like the description. So it's like some of these auctions have like 400 pictures. So you're just like scrolling through these things, like looking for anything. And like my eyes are just like, where are these at? Where are these at? You know, trying to find them. I need like some sort of AI tool that can like identify comic books in pictures. And
so let me ask you, when you describe it, how many hours a week are you spending kind of combing these sites?
I don't know. It's probably not that many. I mean, I have a set of tabs for Chrome. It's like, all right, right click, open all, and it's like 9 or 10 tabs for like local sites and stuff. So I mean, I probably spend maybe two hours a week, maybe in the evenings. Right? It's not crazy. It's probably more than I need because it hasn't been that fruitful.
It makes me think. It makes me think like, especially when you describe your story of seeing the little hole in the box and seeing the BAT.
It was wild.
You know, the three of us here, we all have kids, and so we've all, when our wives were pregnant, you know, went to the ultrasound, and you look at the ultrasound, and it's just this like gray and black blob thing moving on. But the ultrasound tech there is so used to knowing and understanding these images that it's clear as day to them.
Like, oh, it's a boy.
This is my equivalent to you looking at these photos. Like, someone that's unused to it would be like, I don't know what I'm looking. You would just be like Rain Man there, just like looking at the Matrix, being like, there's the Batman 181, and there's.
That's how it felt, because you had to zoom in on this picture, and like I said, like some of these photos are terrible. Like they're not taking them with a DSLR or like the latest iPhone, right? Some of they're just like whatever 10-year-old Samsung that they've got because they, you know, for whatever reason, you know. And so it, you know, whether it was just luck of the draw and I happened to find that one, who knows?
Yeah, it's the thrill of the hunt.
It's the hunt, exactly.
Gets the fun out of me, and I find myself like looking, if there's nothing, if it's a holiday and there's nothing open, like where can I go look for something at, right? You know, I want to go scroll on eBay or something like that because you like looking for the hunt, because whether you've been ultra successful or just successful, I mean, finding New Mutants 98 in a storage locker, finding $1 ASM 300, like those are big scores.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like, you start to win, and then you want to win more and more and more, and then you know that's going to equate to something bigger, right? So that's what you're hoping for.
Just like today at lunch, I have some albums that I need to get out to my booth because they're like kids, like one of them's like a strawberry shortcake Christmas album, right? And I should have had it out there 2 weeks ago to hit like Black Friday and things like that. But I wanted some sleeves for these albums because I didn't want to put a price sticker on.
Yeah, I hate when people do that.
Right? Like I'm not that person. I want to be considerate of a purchase that someone might make from me. And the last thing I want to do is put a price sticker on it. So I was looking for those. Went to 2 record stores today. And at both of them, I asked if they have comic books. One of them was like, no, we don't ever, you know, like, why are you asking me this question? The other one.
Why are you bothering me?
Yeah, stop bothering me. Do you want to buy these or not? The other shop, though, that's been in business for, you know, decades, they were like, well, we don't have any right now, but, and it sounded like they had maybe just sold a bunch or got rid of them when they downsized their shop over the last couple months. And I'd always meant to go into that shop, but it was like, today was the day I needed to get something for a totally different reason, but there was a possibility that they might have comics, right? And so I asked. So like the power of the ask is always like a big thing. And like I said, a pawn shop, right? I've called around to lots of them in town since then and stop in. Most of the time it's a no. They're like, no, we don't sell comics. We don't have anything like that. But you never know. And like lunch breaks, that's my big thing is I'll drive around, I'll pull out my app and be like, okay, what am I close to, or what's close to where I can get with, and like grab something at like Taco Bell or something and hit an antique shop or estate sale while I'm out on my lunch break and make it back in time. That's like a weekly occurrence. I live in Wichita, so it's like in the middle of Kansas. It's our largest city outside of like Kansas City Metro. So we're like 400,000 or so.
So you got a lot of options.
Yeah. I mean, there's always like estate sales going on. Garage sale season is interesting. I think I'm curious about maybe your guys' areas. Our garage sales a lot of times start on Wednesdays now, even. Like for the longest time, they were starting on Thursdays, but they've crept into Wednesday. And then they're usually done by like Saturday at noon. And so that just like kills my access to them.
Oh, yeah. Same thing. Estate sales, I went to one on a Friday, thought I was there the first day, but they actually opened on Thursday. And someone got to the comics before I did. I thought I was there first day. Yeah. And same with garage sales when they start on. Mine are Thursdays sometimes, and estate sales. I
live in this kind of community, and they have an annual garage sale weekend where it's like, if you want to do a garage sale, you have to do it on this weekend, and it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've never found. I've lived in this neighborhood now a couple years. I've not found any comic books there. And then in the neighborhood, I always ask when I go around, and
like you might see someone that has like a Marvel picture, and then you ask, and then it's like
exactly, or like there'll be some like kids, I don't know, some book or something, and I'm like, do you have any comic books by chance? And I've never found any. And then I'm surprised there hasn't been more estate sales in the neighborhood. There's only been one that I went to that one and I asked, and they didn't have anything. So I've not had any luck in it, but I also have tried a fraction of the amount of effort in that game as the two of you have. So,
see, I have no local comic shops. Mm-hmm. So I when I travel like 2-hour radius for work for my clients. And so I'll find antique stores, which I did today on the way home, that old Western looking place.
I saw that. Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to be open or not. I was like looking around, like open up the door and hello. And then no one answers. I'm like, says open, they got the big red, white, and blue flag outside.
There you go.
And I looked to the right and saw like 6 long boxes. I'm like, nope, I'm coming in to look. I don't care. And then he came to talk to me, and I'm like, trying to be nice and like watch my back, like bring out the gimp. You want to make sure that's you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You gotta watch yourself.
Yeah, we've got a couple shops here in town. Like there's the long established one that's been here for decades, and they've got all sorts of stuff. But I've been in multiple of the shops when collections walk in, and so like they come to them where I've got to go out and hunt for them. But I do run an ad in Craigslist. And so like I have an ad saying, hey, like, here's what I'm looking for. And I try to be as upfront as possible with like, here's what I'm looking for. I'm a collector. Like I'm interested in these things, but I'm going to most likely resell the things that I don't want. And so I try and be as upfront as possible.
What do you say that you're looking for?
I like Marvel comics. I'm looking for Spider-Man, X-Men, but I'm willing to buy more than that. But just know that when I'm giving you an offer on the price, like, I'm not really going to keep these, I'm looking to resell them myself, but I also try and be fair with my, offerings, and I get hits on it, a couple times a month, usually. Some of them have been fruitful. Most of them aren't. Most of the time it's like people trying to sell me random crap that's nothing related to like comics in general. They just see the word cash on Craigslist and they're like, I need a hit of my,
Would you pay up for like a massive collection? Like 10,000 comics, 15,000 comics?
I mean, maybe. Yeah, it really just kind of depends on what funds look like at the time too, right? Because I have to keep that in mind, like that FOMO piece. I don't want to. I try not to let FOMO affect me. Of like, oh, this is here and I have to buy it because it's here. And it's like, no, you don't have to buy this huge collection or this book just because it's a good deal. Is it a book I'm even looking to buy, or am I just buying it because I think it's a good deal? So yeah, I'd be willing to, absolutely. If the opportunity came up, on them, just hasn't made it there yet.
Yeah. I wonder, like, I don't know if I'd buy a whole collection or not. I kind of ran into a couple last year and pieced out the key books, and then they didn't want to sell the key books for less money. They said they could sell to a comic book store, and, the comic book store is going to give you 10 cents on a dollar and whatnot. So I think they sold them, but I guess I just wasn't going to fork over all the cash for, what you end up doing. Like I bought, let's say an auction, or I won an auction online, and really the one book you wanted, let's say, was, like this Who's Who book it's like retailed at like, let's say it's $20.
Sure.
I paid $20 for the whole lot. That book's worth $20. I bought it for that book. The rest of them in the lot, I couldn't sell to get $20 back. So I'd have, in order to get my money, I had to sell the book I wanted. So that's kind of like where I stopped saying I'm going to buy the whole, the lot there, because the one book I want is what's worth the money there. And I don't want to part out that, right? So you want to get it for a deal. You want to find it for a buck.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's what makes it fun.
That's where I can average mine out. And that's where that antique booth comes in handy, because my wife has a booth for like standard antiques, like pictures and brass and all that stuff in an antique booth. And I had put some boxes of comics out there to, try and make my money back on those. Cause I'm the same way, right? I'll pay for that book in there, but the other ones, like, I'm not going to be able to sell, or if I do, that it's going to take forever. They're going to take up space, right? So that's why I'm just like slapping dollar stickers on all these books and just set them out there and let them, slowly sell themselves away. And that's where I've kind of justified buying those collections to say, hey, like, yeah, I got this New Mutants 98 out of it, but I also have 2,000 other comics that I've got to do something with.
If you get a book, you're
right.
Yeah,
there may be some time related to it, but
time related to batting and boarding them. Do you find that the antique store you have, you don't have to tell me the numbers, but the rent that you pay, do you make? Again, you can go to a comic book store, sell it to them, you get pennies on the dollar. You can go to a comic book store or a show, get a table, sell there, right? You have these intrinsic costs, or these costs that go into your fixed costs into the books. Selling on eBay, you got those seller fees, right? So do you make it? Is it fruitful? And I'm going to say yes because you're still doing it for that.
Yeah.
Booth.
So like I mentioned, the guy that showed up at my storage unit and has the gotta go lay down the gauntlet. Sounds like, or make sure there's nothing major going on there.
I was just glad you'll beat somebody.
No. So the guy that had the dumpster rental company, right? He's very into buying things, and like he likes antiques and old stuff. He's an old soul, and he opened up this antique mall. And so he and I have been buddies over the last year or so. We sold at one of the flea markets a couple times and have just become friends. So he was opening this up, and I was walking through it before he even had any vendors in. I was like, oh, this is going great. And I came in and was like, yeah, maybe I do want a booth. And he had a couple spots, but he had this one that was like not an ideal spot. It was next to a door, and there was like actually a kind of a counter where it was like almost like an order counter, where there was an opening in the wall, like a window and a counter.
Okay.
And he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So he gave me the booth space, like really cheap. So my rent for the place is very cheap. So I'm really thankful for that. So yes, I'm able to make money on them. It's not a crazy amount. I think last month I made like $80 some, but I'm selling dollar books, and I just go in there maybe once a week and like take a look at the booth. Oh, did someone take something down off of the wall? And I need to put something else up there so it looks, like someone's actually tending this booth. Make sure everything's in alphabetical order, right? I've got Marvel, DC, Independence, alphabetical order, right? Just make sure things look good. So for my time and effort into it, yeah, it's been worth it for me.
Have you paid for the cost of that locker?
Yeah, I mean, I paid for the cost of the locker. Like, we had a garage sale probably 2 weeks after I emptied it out last year, and I got rid of everything else that I took home from that unit and made my money back on that. Yeah. So, I mean, there was like a bicycle, and like I said, the kiln, and all these ceramic molds, and just all sorts of random items that, let's just do a garage sale and sold it that way. And I made my money back on that. So.
Nice. Talk to us a little bit about your channel. So you have a channel, it's called Collecting Casually. Is it these exact stories of what you're doing in hunting? Yeah. How long did you start all that stuff?
I feel like I started it early 2022, I think. Sometime in 2022, I think, is when I started. So it's tales of like garage sales. Like, I'll go to a garage sale, I'll see one at lunch, on my phone on Facebook Marketplace or something. I'm like, like one of them, a garage sale was like, I'm seeing this at noon, and this garage sale's been open since 8 a.m. I'm like,
yeah.
And it was like 20 miles outside of town, but I was like, I got an hour. I got cash in my wallet. Like, I'll just go swing down there. I'm glad I did, because I ended up buying $100 worth of comics from the guy, and I was the first person there that had even wanted to look at comics. So I got a bunch of, books from him. And so, there's stories like, garage sales, not really any estate sales. If I'm out on vacation, right, where I picked up one of these Dave Stevens books, I'm just going to flip through books. So there's stuff like that. There's mail hauls. Like, if I buy stuff from Instagram sellers or on eBay, the boxes just pile up, or I don't have time to open them. And it's kind of like that catch-22. It's like, I want to open these and look at them and make content, but I can't make the content if I don't open them, but I don't have the time. So it's like I get in this phase where it's like, well, I guess I'll just keep piling these boxes up till I have time to open them all and make content, right? So yeah, that's what most of it is just like, hey, here's what I've picked up recently. Trying to do the shorts game and trying to get back into that. I'm really trying to just become more consistent with my videos though. For a while I was doing one like every 2 weeks, and then I released one a couple weeks ago, but before that it had been 2 months since I had done my last video. I just didn't have the time to sit down, and I think I didn't have the motivation for a little while. I don't know why. It's not like I'm burnt out on making them. I don't know, for whatever reason, was just not the top of my I don't know, priority list. So yeah, that's what it is like just showing my collection, showing what I've bought, and just those stories, right?
Would you say having your channel has led you to some other finds? Like, because of your channel, people have reached out for you like, hey, I do have these comics for sale or anything like that?
No, it was funny. We went to me and my kids went to this comic book show that was at a local library this last summer. And we went in there, and one of the guys that had set up a booth was like, hey, you're that guy collecting casually from YouTube. And my kids like thought it was amazing. Like, I've been recognized, like that. And I was like, guys, I'm not famous. Like, stop. But nobody's like been like, hey, I'm in your area, or hey, would you be interested in this? I don't have any of that coming through or anything now.
Got it.
No.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, JP?
No, I'm sorry.
So tell me, you started in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
Is there any goals for 2024, whether it be collecting with the channel, anything like that?
Yeah, like there's some consistency goals. Like I said, I want to like be more consistent with putting content out. But as far as the collection goes, I'm kind of getting ready to sit down and figure out what those goals are, because I'm one of those people that needs to have blinders on. Mm-hmm. And I know I've talked to Dan about this a couple times, where it's like, there's these things I want to buy, but then I see something shiny over here and I go this way and then I go that way. And now I've got this stack of comics and I don't have the one that I was actually going for. And I bought all these things, and guess what? They add up to the amount of, I could have just had the thing I was going for. So really trying to curate and narrow my focus is kind of a goal for me. There are some books that I would like to add to my like 2024 goals list. It's going to be a video I put out towards the beginning of the year, I think. At least that's my intention. So yeah, more Dave Stevens stuff. I think that's going to be like my biggest goal, is just like working towards more of his work. And yeah, just trying to, I don't know.
What would you go next with Dave Stevens stuff? Because the ones you showed are pretty much like, I mean, I have Comics Journal 117, which is
that's one I need. I need like the Elvira's House of Mystery, Dave Stevens cover. There's a couple other just like random items. I've got the Chevelle Noirs. I've got I don't have a bunch of the Rocketeer stuff, so there's all those books that I can add to the collection. I'd like some more of his graded books. Like I picked up, like I said, the Alien Worlds recently. But I mean, I've got Airboy. I've got a lot of those like most famous covers. But then there's also those side pieces, right? You've got that printed and signed item there, like some of that art. But man, that original art is so expensive when it does come up that it's just out of my league on those items. So that's one of the items that I would like to go for. Like I said, is Dave's stuff. Just flesh out my like cover collection.
And that's the thing with Dave. Are you collecting, like you said earlier, though? Dave did the Rocketeer, and some of those covers are great Dave Stevens covers, but they're not good girl art, all of them.
Right. Yeah. Right? No. I'm good with anything. Right. The Johnny Quest books. The
But you're not buying the Rocketeer books just because Dave Stevens was the cover artist, or you're buying them.
No, I would be. Yeah.
You would buy those because Dave Stevens drew them, not because.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we interviewed Alan, Comic Collector Geek, and didn't he say he had every Dave Stevens book, JP?
I would think so, yeah.
Wow.
I think he did. So would that be like something that would be a pursuit of yours?
But I don't think he has the Rocketeer covers, like just a regular Rocketeer on the cover.
Like I showed in Colossus Show, like the Kamiko holiday special or the Christmas special, right? Like that's not good. It's aliens on the cover, right? I love that cover. It's awesome. I haven't put it away yet, but it's out of reach, right? That's another one that's awesome. Like all of his artwork is amazing to me. A lot of it just happens to be good girl art.
Okay.
well.
Yeah. Because I go after the ones that are Good Girl art covers. Elvira, King Kong, another one.
Yep.
I want to get.
Yeah, the King Kong cover. A lot of people like it. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that cover.
Wait,
I don't
is
know
King
what
Kong
it is.
Dave Stevens?
He has a Dave Stevens cover, yeah, or a King Kong cover. Yep. I need like DNA Agents.
Share the screen.
That's one that I need for the collection, and that's one that typically goes for a little more cash as well.
Okay, I take it you watched the documentary. JP's told me about it.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
Oh, okay, that King Kong right there.
Yep.
Yep.
Like I've got the Twisted Tales. I've got the Johnny Quest. So that's probably like my main goal. I'm sure when I sit down and like actually think about it. The other thing is I need to organize my collection better. That's another goal for my collection is, and it kind of goes back to that opening boxes because I want to make content. So like a lot of my collection right now is sorted by where I bought it, when I bought it, like what show did I buy this at? Because I want to make content based around that. Like, hey, I went to this show and here's the things that I bought and who I bought them from. But it's just like I keep buying them and haven't kept up with the video related to it. And then it's like, well, nobody cares about, and maybe they do. Who knows? And that's another piece is like, am I making the videos for me or am I making them for my, people that watch it? Half and half probably, right?
Yeah.
Is like, who cares what I bought at a show in 2022? Right. But maybe they do because the comic is the comic, right? Who cares when I bought it? I want to see what this guy bought at a show, right? Just because it was the show 2 years ago doesn't mean it's not relevant. Maybe the price is different, but it was still a book that I found at a show. So it's just like getting past some of that, but organizing my collection would be a secondary part of like, all right, I've made content about all these and shared my purchases and like shared them with the community. Now I can get them all organized and like really get a better handle on what I do and don't have. Thankfully, I've kept up with like the things that I write in this book. And it's not just X-Men and Spider-Man. There's a couple of like Sensational She-Hulk and Savage She-Hulk and Dazzler. I don't know. For some reason, I wanted to collect Dazzler at one point. That kind of died off.
Taylor Swift fan.
Not that it's a huge.
Big fan. He was specking way before the spec started on T Swift.
So
T Swizzle.
Yeah. Ryan, we could see all the goodies in your room there, and I could see a couple of the boxes to your left there. How many comics are in your collection currently? Would you say?
Oh man, I don't know. More than 1,000, less than 5,000.
More than okay. So I mean, we've definitely had people with much larger, but that's still quite a hefty.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I guess I consider some of my collection. I have 8 short boxes of comics at the booth, that are all for sale. Then I have another room off to the side, that I have some more. I don't know, probably 2 long boxes in. And yeah, those shelves are actually like IKEA dressers for like clothes and drawers. So like they're really cool because those drawers pull out and there's a short box side by side in each one of them. So it's like
what I'm looking at then. Yeah,
it's really kind of cool, like being able to pull them out, dig through a box, and then just like push it back in. It's like a fancier way to do things. So there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of drawers on each of those. So there's 8 drawers there, and then just some shelves up above with stuff as well. So just kind of a cool way to store and display them, keep them out of the way. So
when you talk about a goal is to curate a little bit of your collection, what would you ideally, do you have any thoughts as like, I want to take my 2,500 comic books and take it down to 250 or 500? Any thoughts there?
Not necessarily numbers based, but like just clearing out some of that chaff, some of that junk that's like that I just bought because I was
the fluff.
Like, it was like all the other things. Sure, I got the ASM 300 for $1, but what other junk books did I buy that day? And I spent $1 on, right? Like, get rid of all those random books that are just taking up long box space here. Like, I don't need them. Like, I'm not that big of a fan of maybe some of those runs, right? There's just random like 90s Fantastic Four in there. And it's like, I'm not going to read this. I don't know why I bought it. It was just like, hey, I might as well buy these because they feel like they're cheap. It was just like a time when I was just buying and buying.
I think whenever you go buy that one book for $1, the ASM 300, you got to buy a few other ones just so that
mix it in.
We look this one up real quick.
Why are you buying this one? We have
you don't
10,000 comics over there, and you bought this one for $1. That's weird.
Yeah.
That was a nerve-wracking checkout experience as well, right? When they're like counting them to see how many you got, because I probably brought a stack, up
and
to
did you put it like randomly in the middle there?
It kind of was, right? It wasn't on top, but then it was just like, I want you to be careful with it, but I don't want to give anything away. So it was just like, I'm getting it for $1 either way, right?
Taking it as you wait.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's the question we have is, Rohan and I think are on the same page. Some might be in a different page, but do you tell the people like what they got there for $1, or do you, if it's their opportunity to research it when they get it, right?
Yeah, like at the pawn shop, no, there's no way. Like I'm not doing
that
work
my man.
Hell no.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. We all have the access to the internet. It takes 2 seconds if you wanted to take the time.
Yes, and that's how I am 90 to 99% of the time. It's like, nope, you've got to you put a price on it.
That made you happy. You put a price, not only that, you put a price on it that you made you happy.
Yes, you would have been happy with the $1, right? As opposed to $5, $10, $100. Like, and then, but at the same time, I get the viewpoint of like, oh no, you knew it was worth more and you could have paid them more. Well, like, nah, like most of the time, no. Like I was listening to Dan's version. You guys were kind of talking about this, like the comic shop where you just did the work for them by bringing out the hottest book to the counter, and then they're going to go look it up and change it. And like, I'm not on board with that at all. I'm like, no, let me go put these back, but I'm going to go put them back in the wrong spot. So you got to go find them.
I've only heard of that experience, but like if I went to a store and if they had a sign that said it, or if I did, find a handful of comics and I went up to the checkout, and they were like, okay, hold on, let me review these. I'd be like, well, I'm out of here then. I'm not going to, that's garbage, complete garbage.
I only did that one time where I found that Hulk 377, the third print. The guy had just bought a collection. He hadn't gotten through it yet. So I liked the guy. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. You can look him up because I know he just got him.
That's fine. Right. Like, especially if he was like, yeah, I just got these, but you can go in to take a look at them.
That's got a sticker on it. And you've left that sticker on there for 5 years? No, that's the price, man.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, but the comic, I should show you the pictures of the place. It's a gamer's place. They have just boxes of long boxes thrown on top of long boxes. No one's gone through them, very well. And I'm going through and pulling out the good books, like I said. And the guy, usually the owner will be like, yeah, $2 a book. And he's bought stuff from me. I bought stuff from him. It's kind of a mutual relationship, but he wasn't there. His daughter was like, let me look these up. And I was like, you're killing me. No, see you later. I haven't been back since then. Another fight, Rohan.
There was a shop in where I was born, like about an hour away. And I'd be back there for like Thanksgiving or Christmas. I'm like, oh, this place is open. I'm going to go dig through it. And it was the same thing. If the guy that owned it wasn't there, it was half an hour for them to look up all these books and make sure, and they're getting prices, not even getting prices from like eBay solds, just like some random
listing,
whatever they thought was the fair price for these books. And I'm like, I mean, fine but it was, just a real frustrating experience. But like when I'm buying or looking at collections from people, it's like paying for stuff. It's like, if this is their asking price and there's a book in there that's way above that, like I'm not going to tell them like, oh, you're only asking $50 for this stack of comics when there's $100 comic in there. Like, again, you had the chance. You made it all the way to listing this online and put that price. Like, that's the price that you're asking, and that's the price we're working off of.
Yeah.
Which is kind of tough sometimes when people approach me with collections, from my ad or something, they're like, hey, I've got 500 comics. Okay, can you send me some pictures of them? Right. And that's like, always the thing I request is like, I need to see some pictures, or if you have a list, or like if you kind of know what's in there, let's go from there, because it's not worth my time to try and schedule and meet up with you just to look at a box of junk, right? Like I need some pictures of what you got, and then we can kind of work from there. And if I think there's something of interest in there, let's move forward. But otherwise, I'm just going to walk, because I don't need 500 extra comics to take up space just because you want to get some money out of them. So in those instances, it's like, okay, if they haven't shown me anything of worth, but I think there might be something in there, like, but I try and play fair, right? Like on offering.
I mean, if you got 500 books and you paid $50 for them, which I doubt they're going to go that low, you can sell them at your antique store for $1 a piece and make money.
Oh, yeah.
It'll take forever, obviously, but they're looking for $1 a book themselves, right?
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
and even if you got 50 cents a book at $2.50, you're like, I'm putting some good money behind it. I could be buying a key for the $2.50. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. It's a big trade-off. Like I took advantage of one of our shops, Black Friday or Small Business Saturday sales, where it was like all their dollar books were 10 cents. So I just went in and bought 50, I spent $5. I got 50 books out of it, and I'm going to put these out at my booth for $2 a piece on some of these. It's like, right. I mean, it was, whatever. Like
they're getting rid of inventory.
They're getting rid of inventory. And they couldn't sell it in their location. So the customer base that's going in there didn't want it, but the customer base going to this antique mall might be a totally different customer base and is interested in buying those books and will pay $1 or $2 for them. Right. So
I went to a garage sale where a guy was like getting rid of all his toys, G.I. Joe, Star Wars stuff. And I think I got the whole lot for like $40, and I sold one of the pieces for that kind of money. He could have done the same thing, but he's out of it. It was his extras, and I was able to sell it on eBay, and he could have done the same, but he didn't want to go through the hassle, right?
Yeah. There's
just like you
price
said,
to that hassle.
Yeah, there's a price to it.
It's the time, right? Time has a value,
right? And you bought them for 10 cents. They want to get rid of them. You have a different audience, or that might equate to some money in your pocket. But again, there's time you spent picking them. We all have our opportunity costs and whatnot. So, it's the fun of it. But they had a reason. You didn't. Everyone's happy. It was a happy trade, right?
Yep.
Your 10 cents. And if it works out, great. And they're going to move on and refill their long boxes with more stuff. So.
Yeah. Rohan, I know you're a card guy, and we opened some cards on Ryan's stream the other night. Do you collect any of the collector's tens or anything like for X-Men?
I don't. So when it comes to cards now, like as a kid, I bought packs and things like that. Now I specifically collect
just
two characters. Like Silver Surfer, and I just started collecting the Thing as well.
Elf cards.
Yeah. So I specifically buy like singles, we'll just say, of the cards. However, like I did have a video where I bought some packs just because they were cheap on eBay, and I thought they'd be fun. And like this sets that I bought from, like, they were, one was the Jim Lee X-Men set that we opened on Ryan's show. It's like, if you hit one of those autos, like,
you're awesome.
That's a gold right there. So, and the other set, the Onslaught set, was also had, which has my ultimate Grail card is in that set. But like, obviously I didn't hit it, which if I did, I would have lost my mind. But yeah. Yeah, but those tins are cool. Like, and you see them for a lot of those sets from the 90s. And
and that's kind of like, I like the comic and comic adjacent or related items, right? Like, sure, there's comic characters on here, but it's like the collector 10. And I showed you guys on stream the other day, and I have it here, like that uncut sheet of Marvel Masterpieces.
Yeah, I would love something like that, just because it's super cool.
I'll pull it up again. Whoops.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. Yeah, I would love that.
So I got it framed, glass, so you can see both sides.
Oh,
so there's
really cool.
So there's that thing, and then just all these side items that I also collect. I like the advertising pieces and promo items, and all those things that you're not just buying at a store. So that's how this collection just has evolved. Is not just the primary product, the comic book, but the toys and the advertisements and the pins and buttons and Pez dispensers and
it's also a function for me of space. Like with young kids, I don't want to have them out in the open because right. So my stuff all sits on the top shelf in this closet. And so if I added tins and promos and figurines, I would run out of room. So I have 2 short boxes that are half full. And then I have 2 little cases of my Surfer collection and my Thing collection so far.
Yep.
Yeah. But I do have ambitions to be like you guys one day and have some space. Yeah.
I got a buddy who has the USS Flag, G.I. Joe USS Flag, the aircraft carrier.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All spread out, all 6 or 8 feet of it, whatever. He has young kids that play with it almost every day. I'm like, dude, don't let him play with that thing, man, because it's like his is complete or pretty damn close. It's like $3,000 piece right there, and he's letting them play with it. I'm like, oh god,
I missed out on one.
Me, I'll keep it safe.
There's a garage sale advertised on Facebook or Craigslist 10 years ago, and I booked it down there as soon as I saw it, and parked, got out, and just watched someone else walk away with it and put it.
Wait,
in
what is this piece that you guys are talking about?
The USS Flag. It's the big aircraft carrier from G.I. Joe. It's like, by the time it's all put together, it's probably 6 feet long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to look.
It's enormous.
I've never seen.
But it's
that.
like one of the Grail pieces. There's not a ton of them out there because it's like back in the day it was expensive. Who's getting the flag for Christmas? Like the rich kid.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
my cousins had it. I still this day am pissed at them. I think they still have it at their mom's house. I'm like, give it to me now. I had the headquarters. I didn't have the flag.
Okay.
I didn't have the flag, but I had the headquarters. But there was also the spaceship, right? What was that called?
Yeah, the white one. I know exactly what it looks like. I didn't have that either.
I didn't even know it existed till recently, but I knew the flag existed, and I was always jealous of my cousins who had it, and on top of their pool table, right, so they could access. It was like at waist height, so you could fly planes in and whatnot. It's a cool piece.
Oh man, yeah, it is.
But I look at it now.
It's enormous.
It's enormous. I just picked up some Star Wars stuff. I got a Death Star almost complete now, which I had as a kid. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to come in and make funny sounds like I'm flying. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
JB's like,
I mean, like, I've got Castle Grayskull just sitting, up top there, along with a bunch of other stuff. Like, but it's got a layer of dust on it because I'm just like, I'm not gonna let me use the sword to open the door and no, it's just for looks. And yes, I'm a 41-year-old man with this.
That's probably why I got rid of my G.I. Joes over last year. The Star Wars I always kept, but I never had the vehicles. And now I found a couple collections. I got an Ewok Village with a real box, like with the original box.
Nice. Yeah.
So I'm like, what am I going to do?
JP's going to be setting up dioramas.
I have one, but I'm like, well, now what? JP, now I got to buy more of them and buy the pieces.
This could be new content for the channel. You telling a story with your little dioramas and figurines.
I actually picked out my Christmas Day from 1981 when I got the Death Star. So I have that picture of me with that, and then the one I just got. So it's kind of cool, but cool. Reliving that childhood. But I told my wife, just set these up for me on Christmas Day, just like 1981 when I got them back then. So.
Yeah. I found the old pictures. Yeah, same thing. Like back in the day as a kid, and there's when I got that He-Man figure. Or look at me opening these G.I. Joes. Or those are always fun to find.
Yeah.
And then you're like, why did I get rid of these damn things? Well, how did I lose this one? What's the matter with me?
Now I just had to buy it back for 10 times what we paid for it back in the day.
Yeah. Annoying.
Well, Ryan, this has been awesome.
To relive it.
Yeah.
I guess there's I was talking.
Or what?
No, I just was saying real quick, as I was watching Toy Federation. Do you know Toy Federation? Ryan?
No.
Do you watch Froggy Flips at all?
I do, yeah.
If you watch Froggy Flips, he stops by Toy Federation. I don't know where they're located at, but they got a YouTube channel just like Froggy does, like we all do. But some guy came in with a bunch of G.I. Joes, 80s G.I. Joe and the 60s, and he was saying how the generation that bought the 60s ones are dying off or not as many anymore. And that's eventually what happens. No one wants what we wanted, and you collect it, then it dies off at some point, Yeah, so it's just the part of the collecting is you probably take it with you, right, at some point, and that's okay too.
Yep.
You got it back and you take it with you.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe in 50 years or 60 years, someone's going to buy this very storage locker where we're sitting in here.
Exactly. All this is just jammed into boxes. And,
yeah.
And hopefully they enjoy just like we did. So
exactly.
Nature beast.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, Ryan, this has been awesome. I appreciate you coming on. Real quick,
thanks for having me on.
Why don't you just tell everybody where they can find you, where they can watch you, all that good stuff, and then we'll call it.
Yeah, so obviously here on YouTube, you can just look for Collecting Casually. I'm over there. Instagram, same thing, Collecting Casually. Just started up TikTok, I guess a while ago, and have been trying to post more to there. And so, yeah, just those three. Just search Collecting Casually, and you should find me.
We'll put the links in the description and all that good stuff. But this has been awesome.
It's been fun.
On. Yeah, JP, why don't you take us out?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Everyone, make sure you make comments, subscribe, like our content here. We really appreciate everybody watching. Peace out. See you in the next one.
Later.